requirements of the project 100%. We don't have money for that. It's your risk to bear. So you find yourself going to a COP28 or a COP event or an energy event, and telling people that, oh, you are doing this biomass plant or a biomass energy project, and you're asking them for funding, and they're telling you, oh, they're not interested. Remember that graph I showed you, that they want to come at the late stage when you have already de-risked the project. They believe that all the things you need to do at the early stage of the project is within your beck and call. Maybe your shareholder group, or these people we call project preparation investors. They also ask you that you must show traction on your project and explain how the project will be delivered. Today, someone might be here developing a waste to energy project, right? And all you know is that I can convert the waste in Lagos State through an incinerator or some kind of combustion or chemical process to energy. I can supply that energy back to the states, through a power purchase arrangement. As lofty as this idea is, most early stage investors need you to show traction. And what I mean by traction is that, one, you have a clear understanding of how each element of process in your infrastructure project comes to light. And that's why you find somebody like a Dangote, when he talks about his gas plants or his cement plants, he's very detailed. So you can't run away from the fact that I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, I'm just a lawyer, I'm trying to do this infrastructure project. I don't really know anything. You have to get your hands really dirty in the technicalities of it. The second level of traction is the few things that you feel you can do to show commitment. It might just be acquiring the land. It might just be getting the license. It might just be forming a shareholder group. It might just be being able to do some level of early studies to really quantify the demand, such that it's not just an idea in the air, but it's an idea worth thinking about. It's an idea worth executing. Then they also get this question from a number of developers or a number of investors, is that, oh, your project is not bankable. Your project is not bankable. And they're like, oh, wow, no, my project should be bankable. But that idea of bankability has been hidden in the houses of investment banks, in law firms, in some financial advisory firms, that they leave us entrepreneurs uninformed about what this thing is all about. Now, I'm here to liberate you in this session that bankability of an infrastructure project is not in the law firm's idea or the investment bank's idea or knowledge or data bank. That you yourself have to have clarity of what it takes for your project to be bankable. And even if you don't have the funding to work out the bankability in terms of studies, analysis, and a few other things, you have a very detailed line of sight of what needs to be done. So that in going through the idea of forming a project team with somebody, you actually know what it takes for this to happen. So bankability is a challenge. It's a key challenge. And how do we solve it? Yes, everybody's talking about projects should be bankable, but the key thing is the fact that it's the bankers that brought about this word. The bankers in the various institutions in the country is the fact that bankable means lendable. It's as simple as that. And if you put yourself in the lender's mindset as a lender, number one is you want your money back. You want your money back plus the interest itself. And it's not necessarily that the project is attractive. or the project is impactful is that if I don't get that money back, being paid as a debt service payment, then I've lost the returns I meant. I've lost the other use I could have used that money for in itself. So generally, right? As I said, there's a gap in the infrastructure space. The opportunity is there, and the actual development into the continent remains slow despite a large amount of capital deployed. The lack of projects developed to a point where large majority of the risk has been well mitigated, what we call a well de-risked project, is what is lacking. Investors are looking to invest in Africa. They're looking to invest in your energy projects. But most of them will either want to do operational projects, that is projects that have gone through the construction phase, or at least have a project with the very least have a completely bankable solution. Now, people tend to say, oh, let me do a bankable feasibility report. Let me get a consultant so that this bankability thing, we can just end it. We get somebody, I need a consultant. There's nothing like that. It's common to see feasibility studies claim titles to be bankable, and this term is very misleading. No feasibility study at the time of submission can claim to be bankable until it's accepted by a lender. And there are several steps to go through before that occurs. The feasibility study, which is a good thing to do, should prove the project's technical and economic viability. To say, okay, technically, if you build these gas to liquid plants, it can work. There's enough gas resources, there's a pipeline to plug it to, there's a gas gathering system, there's a gas connection system. It can work and it will work optimally. The area you have located is not prone to flood risk and other technical issues. From an economic viability issue, is that if truly there is a demand based on what we see as at now, there's enough people to buy LPG gas. So the technical viability, the economic viability, even the legal viability can all be dealt with from a feasibility perspective. But from a bankability perspective, it is the steps that follow the development of a feasibility report that determines the bankability of the project, not the bankability of the feasibility report. And I'll explain this a little bit more. So when we find out that this gas liquid project is possible technically, when we find out that this project economically can provide great economic output and impact if the population is there. Now, when we now come to bankability, it's now the acceptance of the risks of the project by a lender to say, oh, this project, even though it has enough gas resources, even though it has the ability to take that gas to a gas liquid project, but there are negative delta militants here. You may need to sign a community cooperation agreement so that these militants, they won't come and stop the gas from being supplied to the gas gathering system for the gas liquid project. A feasibility study may bring out that risk, may show you it's a risk, may tell you the mitigation plan, but may not do the work to actually stop that risk from happening through this kind of contracts we're talking about. A project could be economically viable to say, oh, This gas to liquid project produce LPG. Everybody in Nigeria needs cooking gas now. If you build it, don't worry, they will come. You just build it, will sell cooking gas. Between when you build it or when you conceive the idea and when you build that LPG plant, because everybody needs cooking gas in Nigeria, you could spend another 3 to 4 years planning, raising capital, deploying, constructing. Within that 4 years, there are already 30 other LPG plants in the country. And when there is more supply, the demand reduces and the prices reduces. So you had tried to sell your own 12 kg LPG at 12,000 naira or 13,000 naira now. In 4 years' time, when you want to sell that LPG, even though the feasibility report tells you today it can work, in 4 years' time, when you want to sell the LPG cooking gas in your LPG plant, the numbers will tell you that that thing cannot be less than 5,000 naira because you have 30 other people. So what do? You think of bankability. Okay, you're going to sign a long-term purchase agreement or what people call an offtake agreement. Oh, let me talk to Wando. Let me talk to Total. Can they agree to buy my volumes of my LPG plants today, such that when I develop the plant in 4 years' time or in 3 years' time, I'm sure of a guaranteed buyer, irrespective of what the market is saying. Those things don't come in a feasibility report. And that is the thinking of the lender. So African project promoters need to have a bankability mindset. Many African project promoters show a desire to lead a development, but 80% of them do not currently have the human knowledge and the capacity to demonstrate bankability. In this classic case of building an LPG facility, right, it's clear that it will work today, but it may not work tomorrow. The lenders appreciate a developer or a promoter who can anticipate that risk, who can tell them that, okay, cooking gas today is 15,000 naira per 12 kg. I mean, I just bought one, I think 14,000 naira or something. Oh, I think we should all be in the LPG business. I think I should just go get the gas conversion site and build one. Good idea. But what is the future price of that LPG when you develop it? Is the market still going to be there? Is government going to say nobody should do LPG again because you are the one doing it? No, it's going to be open. So what are the things you need to do to de-risk? And that's why people say, oh, project is not well de-risked. That's what they mean. That's what they mean. Risk of revenue being assured, issues on construction. What even building the facility itself may take you a longer time than you envisage. So most of these project developers are unable to demonstrate the knowledge, right? And that is what limits them in being able to get the right early stage funding in itself. And because of all these problems I have had in my own career, when I have clients walk up to my office and tell me they want to do an infrastructure project, an energy project, a real estate project, and you see there clearly that they cannot communicate bankability. They can only tell, oh, the project is feasible. Oh, it's profitable. I've given KPMG. They like that. Oh, I've given PwC. Sorry to mention names here, but I've seen this happen tons and tons of times. It's actually very frustrating. But the entrepreneurs themselves cannot convince a lender that they can make this project work. Because the law firm you have hired, the consulting firm you've had, they're coming to end their fees. They will pay them, they will go, they will leave you with the loan. They are the one that has the loan. I'm sure the lawyers here, they know. They just come and earn your fees, tell you what to do, blah. At the end of the day, you sit with the loan and you make sure the debt service is paid. So that is why, and this is a testimony for me, it's a problem I was trying to solve. And I said, you know what? How can I make bankability easy for every energy infrastructure or large-scale project developer to understand. And that's why I developed a bankability framework, which I call the Brickstone Bankability Framework. And having that mindset, even if you haven't raised funding, can allow you to know what project to do and what project not to do. So we talked about three things. This idea of your project is not bankable until you go to a top 4 consulting firm, until you get the biggest law firms to come and look at your project so that they can make it bankable. To me, it's good, it's what to have, but you, the project entrepreneur yourself, you must know exactly what they are talking about. You must also have an appreciation of why they are saying what they are saying, and not feel like, oh, I've been to Standard Chartered. These people, their wallet is too much. They say I should go and do this. I should do one agreement. I should do this. Ah, God, I know hearing my prayer. This project, we've been on it for 2 years. It's wisdom. If you understand what this thing is, you will be able to know where exactly you are going. So we develop bankability on 3 pillars. One is ensure predictable cash flow. This means that, and if you are going to learn anything today, at this point, you should really pay rapid attention. That projects must be characterized by a high degree of cash flow predictability under a partial or full contracted revenue agreement with the creditworthy counterparty. Plenty grammar. I'll break it down. No problem. You see, this idea of cash flow predictability is the foundation of lending. Every lender in his books, when I lend you money, I determine that, come November, you're going to pay me back 10,000 naira. In another 3 months, you're going to pay me 10,000 naira. At the end, you should be within 6 months, you pay me that 15,000 naira I borrowed you. For a lender, it is the biggest thing. They don't want surprises. It's not so much of the interest rate is high or the interest rate is low. Some people call something called debt sculpturing. What they are more interested in is, can I trust that if we lend you this $10 million and you go on a 2 months of construction or a two years of construction, by the 3rd year, you will start paying us the $2 million every quarter you determine to pay for the next 8 quarters. To be able to answer that question, you must be able to set up your project in such a way that either that cash flow is contracted, meaning that it has a third party who has said, Ruth, don't worry, Chineke, don't worry. You see that LPG plant you want to build? Me, I'm Owando. I'm going to buy 70% of your volumes. You don't have to worry. Or me, I am Nigerian Breweries, or I'm a hotel. I need over 30 kilograms or 30,000 kilograms of cooking gas every month. Just take it to the bank. So when we talk about contracted revenue, is the ability for you not to depend too much on the market that, if I build the LPG plant, they will come. It's to say, can I go and sign an agreement with a hotel, with Radisson Hotel, and all these hotels, they all need LPG gas. I can give them a very decent price that they can't even get today. And I can give my bankers a clear level of assurance that it will be paid. And I'm not just depending on that people will come and buy. The second level is fixed construction, delivery, and optional operations. As much as possible, this is easy to achieve, but it's difficult if you are not planning. If that same gas to liquid project or that same LPG plant, to desire to build it, is not the one you say, I know one Uncle Uche, he builds he builds construction, he builds LPG. Let's go and meet him, you build it. When you take that kind of person to the lender, he will ask you, can this man, how did you arrive at this constructor? Did you go through a tender process? Is he ready to guarantee the building? Guarantee from a point of view of what they call liquidated damages. Some lawyers might know about it, and they use it often. That if you don't build it on time and on spec, you pay some money. Because remember, we've gone to sign with a hotel that come 2027 December, we're going to start supplying them LPG, and we cannot fail. The second part of it is optimal operations. To say, if I build these energy plants and I've promised 10,000 megawatts and it's giving me 8,000 megawatts, it can't work. It must give at least that 10,000 megawatts because that is what I've promised my buyer. That is the thinking of a lender to say, if the construction is not constructed on time and on schedule, then this loan cannot be paid from the time I have set for it. If the plant is not working optimally, meaning that it's not optimal, it's not giving me the optimal volumes, then we cannot get the volume and the price that we want to get it. So hence the revenue is a revenue shortfall. Then lastly is independent governance and sustainability. Most project developers in Africa feel that they are the project idea person and it is their baby. But they forget that there's corporate governance. There's a difference between you as Femi Awofala and me as my project company. The project company, it's a legal entity on its own. So projects must independently operate. As much as you are the alpha and omega of the project, because you came up with the idea, you got the funding, you made it happen, you forget that that project also has other shareholders, not yourselves. And that project also has a life of its own. So you want to have that level of independence and governance and ensure sustainability. So I wouldn't go too much into this again, but for predictable cash flow, I've mentioned it already. But just know two things, that every project, large-scale project, energy, infrastructure, or whatever, there are always two types. There are either projects with offtake agreements or projects with no offtake agreements. When a project has an offtake agreement, it means there is a contracted revenue agreement. Somebody has promised to buy your output. All you need to do is to enter into a negotiation and ensure the offtaker is creditworthy. The creditworthiness of the offtaker is important because you could have an offtaker who just tells you he's interested, and if he's not creditworthy, he won't fulfill the obligations he has said he's going to fulfill. And for projects with no offtake agreement, does not mean that their cash flow cannot be predictable. But those projects need to undergo an independent market study that demonstrate that they have a robust revenue upside that can remove the risks of price, demand, business cycle, inflation, currency parity, and operational risk. A classic example is when MTN came into this country. That was 2002 or 2003. The first GSM phone I got was about 35,000 naira. Nobody signed an offtake agreement with MTN and the GSM operators, Airtel as a Econet as they were called previously. But they had gone through a detailed independent market study that Nigerians like to talk. Nigerians like to talk. And irrespective of the price, the demand, and all these other things, if I still build that GSM connectivity in this country, it will still be bankable. So the idea about having predictable cash flow is not so much necessitated on the fact that it has to have an offtake agreement. But it has to, if it doesn't have an offtake agreement, it has to be able to clearly demonstrate that all these risks can be averted. And there's a strong demand. And I also noticed that the first 5 years, MTN and Econet came to Nigeria, they had an exclusivity for 5 years that no other GSM company can come in. There was that exclusivity given, which is a sort of like a predictable cash flow protection mechanism, so to say. So fixed construction delivery, I mentioned this earlier, that it takes a lot to arrive at a competent construction contractor. You know, you need to make sure you have liquidated damages. You need to make sure that the project must enter into long-term supply agreement with key resource suppliers, and if possible, an O&M agreement with an operator for the operation of the project after completion. These are the issues that bankability deals with. So when you cannot demonstrate how your project will be built on a fixed price or a fixed construction schedule, they will tell you that your project needs to be de-risked on that part. When you cannot tell them that how your long-term supply, say you need a raw material in this your LPG plant, such as natural gas, where you cannot demonstrate how it will be supplied on time, on schedule, then they tell you your project needs to be de-risked, that it's not bankable. And when you don't have the competence to run that gas plant, and you are not even seeking an O&M contractor who has the experience to come and manage the plant for you and operate it for a certain period of time, so that that risk of, oh, I don't know how to operate it, can be removed. They'll tell you your project is not de-risked. Your project is not bankable. Then the last part is governance. And one of the ways we see governance right from every project is to make sure you have a governance framework driven by your shareholders' agreements. Your shareholders will definitely come into an agreement together. But how you want to govern the project, how you want your project to have the right level of governance will be very important in how you set up your governance framework. Meaning that, oh, we want anti-corruption. So we want to have an anti-corruption policy in this country, in this company, yes. Because most large-scale projects tend to have high-risk political people as shareholders, and they bring political exposure issues, and all those issues can be dealt with, you know, by having a governance framework. Also, project must desire to choose climate considerations in technology. That's the choice of technology and impact in mind. When I say choice of technology, what I mean by that is, if I have to build a power plant that is going to pollute the environment, the choice of power turbines that I use can be more energy friendly and can be more energy sufficient in itself. Then I don't need to go into this ESI, you all know about it. I don't need to go into issues of ESG, which are important in sustainability. Now let's go into the meat of today. We have just 2 slides left, sorry. But I needed to set that background for you to understand what bankability is, why it is important, and the 3 main pillars you can use in thinking through your project. Okay, my project have a predictable cash flow. Okay, what do I need to do? Can my project have a fixed construction delivery and optimal operations? What do I need to do? Can my project have independent governance? That means I won't just put my wife and my son as a board of directors, but I'll also, you know, expand it better and also deal with sustainability issues that my project may impose in the environment. So if you look at renewable and non-renewable energy, which everybody in this class knows about, you know, the non-renewable ones are things that still extract from the natural resources, while the renewable ones are replenishable. Now, among the renewable energy projects, all I've been talking about can be related to this solar, wind, hydro, and biomass and the likes. But there's a group of people or a group of within the renewable energy space, you know, involved in solar home systems, right? Which a number of them have met, and they're like, okay, how can they make their projects bankable? The question for me here is the fact that as a solar home systems operator or provider, whether at any level, it's a service, right? It's provide a service, have a buyer, and the service ends. It's not set up like a proper power project that requires some level of diligence. The whole construction of the solar home systems is within your purview. You just get the buyer and you sell. So it may not necessarily fit into what I'll be talking about. But if you have any questions on that, I'll probably take after. So remember the bankability framework, 3 things. How do you ensure the revenue is predictable, the cash flow is predictable? How do you make sure you fix construction, delivery, and operations? How do you ensure governance and sustainability? So let's look at the non-renewable energy projects. That is your natural gas, your oil, your coal, energy projects. So this sector is well known to bankers, right? So for you to make cash flow predictable, right, from a natural resource energy, from a natural gas or oil project, you basically have to deal with long-term purchase agreements. There's really no other way, right? But the challenge is to find the right creditworthy partner, as most governments are indebted. So in the energy and natural resource space, be it a petrochemical plant, be it an oil development or whatever, you have to premise the project on some sort of long-term purchase agreement, right? Most of the lenders are thinking that way. They expect you that, oh, I'm building this gas plant because I want to supply this other counterparty. From a construction delivery, it's quite straightforward. There are a number of EPC contractors within the energy, non-renewable energy space who can make this happen, right? A major area in the non-renewable energy space is supply. Key materials, be it oil you need for petrochemical, be it gas you need for gas conversion or whatever. Then, as I said, having a governance framework and choosing the most efficient climate-friendly choice of technology. So when I say choice of technology, I mean choice of equipment you will use in your oil, gas, or coal, right? As much as the renewable energy ecosystem, they frown at this sector, but we need it. We can't run away from it, right? But can we reduce the level of pollution that may occur while those assets are being deployed? Then regarding the renewable energy space, 2 major areas driven by large-scale renewables are the mini grids or corporate and industrial, which we call the CNI. And the main challenge for mini grids tariff is getting the right balance between commercial viability and the ability and willingness to pay by the consumers. That has been the subject matter, and that's why you find in the mini grid space today, it's been largely driven by NGOs, blended finance, DFIs. The core bankers are still waiting for a solution that can allow them to look at a renewable energy project clearly from a PPA perspective, rather than oh, we build it, the consumers will pay for it, or we subsidize it and things like that. So we feel that renewable energy attractiveness will still be driven by PPAs in itself. Same here within the fixed construction, delivery, and optimal operations. It's not as easy to get a single point EPC contractor in the renewable energy space because there is various amounts of suppliers, technology. For example, a wind farm, somebody else does the base of the wind farm, somebody else supplies the blades, somebody else supplies the turbines and co. So you may have to have a mix of multiple contractors, but finding a way to tie them together in one will be critical. And same thing as the supply chain or supply requirement, if it is necessary. And here is the governance and sustainability, which is similar to what I mentioned earlier. So finally, African project energy promoters need to have a bankability mindset, and the idea you have is not enough. You need to do a little bit of work more. You need to think through this bankability framework I've shared here and see how that idea can be de-risked by yourself before you start going into consultants and other people to help you along the line. Thank you very much. I'm done. I hope you learned something.
Wow, amazing, 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 amazing. You know, there's something I told you guys at the beginning. There's something about learning in an environment, God's environment, is different. I don't know about you, but it seemed as though as he was talking, the lessons were engraved in my mind, right? And I believe by now we can all chorus the three foundations of the bankability mindset, right? So we talked about a guaranteed offtake. I'm actually saying that in my own language. I'm not putting exactly guaranteed offtake, a fixed construction schedule and price, optimal operations, and independent ESG sustainability framework. This is very, very important. So I know our time is fast spent, but we're going to take a few questions. But please, I would like you to take a question, drop your questions in the chat box now. Just go ahead to read them now. Um, yeah, any question? I can see some hands raised. Okay, I mean, like, I will reach out. I will call you if your hands are raised, but I will crave your indulgence to keep your questions very direct. 30 seconds, and let me done with your questions so that we can move on to the next aspect. So, any questions? Let me see. Yeah, let me just check the
I think Okoyemi and
okay.
Ezra.
Okay, Okpe, please go first, then we'll come to Ezra.
Hi, hello, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Femi. Just to chime in something on the talking about the the bankability and also ensuring that you secure um, the cash flow, things that you need to get done. I also think that that bit of the insurance element of these things, like the political risk, those things really you can hedge that with insurance. The business interruption as well that can actually also affect the cash flow as well. You can also leverage insurance as well as a tool, right, to also help put those in shape, and also for the bankability too as well. Even for the PPA, right? For instance, it will then be that sort of like is a more of a forward, and a bit of risk in there again, because as well, some PPA agreements, right? They might not pull through in terms of, when it's time, for them to perform. So I would also then think as well that, also leveraging, stuff like futures contracts and all of that, right? To just, balance these things, particularly
Yeah.
if yeah, it entails, such a complex, you know, risk in terms of the volume of the project. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's just
Yeah,
what I just want to chime in.
yes. So just to shed a bit of light. So this ensure predictable cash flow, right? It's a big pillar that carries plenty children. Everything you mentioned about hedging, about insurance, about political risk guarantees, they are all they are all ingredients, put it that way, that you apply to still make sure that the cash flow of the project is not hindered in any way, either by FX risks, by inflation risks, by exchange rate risks. So the word is ensure predictable cash flow. As an entrepreneur, you may not have that level of sophistication a professional like yourself will have. But as a layman entrepreneur, you're just coming from village. How can I make my cash flow predictable? One, I can secure an off taker. Okay, I don't have an off taker. I can go do this hedging thing. Oh, I don't do the hedging. Okay, I can go and do insurance. So the overarching objective is to ensure predictable cash flow. How that is being developed, the various tools, instruments, uh, mitigation plans are all the things you're explaining, which is good. But what I want to leave everybody here is if you have these three pillars, then it's easy for you to find out what are the various solutions I can embed to make sure that those things work. Thank you very much, Okoyemi.
Yes, thank you very much. Ezra.
Okay, good morning once again. So I was going to ask that for a number of mini grid projects in particular, right? What I find is that you have a struggle between balancing the offtake in terms of the number of people of taking the even the amount or the capacity that they are willing to even offtake, and then the cost of the project itself. The projects are still expensive to construct. As in constructing mini grids, they're still expensive, but you then have the added issue of, because you construct a number of mini grid projects in, say, certain rural areas. So what you have is that the capacity they can even offtake from you is maybe minimal. Then the amount that they're even willing to pay as tariffs for your project might not be enough. So how then do you balance being able to now pay back your investors and just the project even being profitable at all?
Good question. So it's unfortunate that that mini grid space has been a bit of debate, and the ability not to make the cash flow predictable is why the surveys or the consumers, their willingness to pay on time, on schedule, and consistently has deterred the traditional banking or lending system from that space. So the whole idea of mini grid space today is a it's a subsidy based arrangement, because we all know that if you have to price the electricity at the real tariff that they should pay, it may not be sustainable for them to. It may not be affordable for them to. So you're right. Government is doing its work. Other development agencies like GIZ and UFC, World Bank, they're all doing everything they can do. But if you can shift your renewable energy project to more with the industries or commercial concerns, then they are able to sign a long-term purchase contract with you such that you don't have to worry about demand. Then regarding the cost of it, you just have to find a competent contractor who can deliver to you on a fixed price schedule such that you can go to sleep. And that with those two ways of de-risking the project, you can be rest assured that the project will be moving closer towards bankability. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have. I just wanted a few things I just wanted to add. And that's the point on, I was just thinking about, after all of this now, someone who is just starting up, like, okay, how do I get an off-take card? Or I think one of the first things you need to do just in rounding up is that we need to know, you need to speak to people. If you get, let's assume you're coming into the energy space for the first time, or you are looking to start a project, you don't even know where to start. I think one of the first things you can actually do is to get into trainings like this. I know Femi has a scheduled training session for entrepreneurs, right? As you get into that environment, apart from even just learning the knowledge, you can actually interact with people. Because one of the things I've learned with doing projects in the energy sector is a lot has to do with collaboration. There's really so much that you can do on your own, right? You might not be able to get the off-taker, but you can know somebody that knows someone that can introduce you to an off-taker. You might not be able to get an EPC contractor who can deliver the fixture schedules, but you can actually know someone that knows someone. And again, attending conferences and events. Okay, Kanem, I can see your hands raised. Our time is fast spent, but I will let you speak quickly. But in summary, people, I think I don't want us to be deterred by how big these things are. The reason why we are here is I want to be able to inspire you to take big steps. We have a very big God, right? And so there's nothing he can't do. But then knowledge is critical, right? You need to put yourself in the position of the lenders. If you are in their shoes, would you lend to yourself? I think that's the question. If you are imagine how much to take you, how difficult it take you to give someone money, right? Because how hard you've spent, it took you rather to get that money. So if you were in the lender's position with everything you've packaged together as a project, would you lend to yourself? I think that's why one of the things to bear in mind as we round up. So 30 seconds quickly so that we can round up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my question is just straightforward. One of the recommendations the speaker said we can adopt is getting a single EPC contractor to handle the construction project at the same time. And in construction projects, you know that one of the things we cannot take away is delays and cost overrun. Sometimes it even leads to disputes. How do we manage that here if we have a fixed time for this project to be completed so that it can be bankable?
Yeah, can you help with that?
Yes, yes, yes. So essentially, so now just like what he talked about, there will always be cost overruns and there may always be delays, and which is why you need a tight EPC contract. So for instance, you need to get an EPC contract that will handle end to end. It's always better. In fact, lenders prefer it. You don't want to give someone to be responsible for panels. You give someone the responsibility for getting batteries. You give someone the responsibility for getting the land. At the end of the day, it's all disjointed, right? The other person will be delayed. Okay, it's not my fault. It's this other person. So you want to be able to get a contractor that you are going to hold solely responsible for everything end to end. And so as part of that, what you can then do is to put in what we call LDs, liquidated damages, meaning that if, for example, you are unable to deliver at so and so time and there is a delay, your EPC contractor pays you certain amount of money, and you can even deduct it from their fees. And these are things that you will agree before time, so that you don't come back and tell you, oh, I'm sorry, this thing delayed. And even if it delayed, it becomes their own fault as a result of that, right? Because this is very important, because even when you are borrowing money for that project, the borrower, the lender, right, will also place some liability on you. You need to be able to transfer it to your EPC contractor that if you delay the project more than this time, then you are going to be responsible. The other important thing to also note as well is that because of particularly your experience in doing EPC contracts like this, it's always good to think about your project timeline. Don't give your lenders a time you cannot meet. Even when you can meet, give headrooms. Say you can finish a project in 3 months. Don't tell your lender 3 months. Say 6 months, for instance, so that in the event that there are delays, you can actually cover up for this. So liquidated damages is important, and you can also have a payment structure that ensures that you don't pay everything ahead of time, right? So you have performance guarantees. So performance guarantees are things that to ensure that once your EPC contractor does not perform, you can draw down. Where you can go, draw down from the performance guarantee that they've given you to compel them or incentivize them to do what they need to do on time, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of other things that go into EPC contracting, but I will just stop here. But what is most critical is get someone that is trustworthy and reliable, get the assurance, and get a fixed price. This fixed price is very important. We've had cases where an EPC contract will tell you, oh, sorry, this is 10,000 naira. And after I went to the market and I came back, it's now 50,000 naira. You need to tell your contractor, tell me the cost of this thing from the beginning to the end, and the person is bound by it, whether the prices increase, whether the price goes up or goes down, that person is bound by it. Which is why if you're also a EPC contractor on the call, you also need to ensure that if you're pricing or giving your client a pricing, you also give some headrooms in the event that there are fluctuations in pricing, right? So that to bring us to the end of it. Sorry, Femi, you wanted to say something?
No, everything's fine.
All right, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for having us. Again, this is Grace Energy Professionals for Africa, and we have we have our weekly recharge session. Again, we're a faith-based community, and we believe that you can, with the wisdom of God and the Spirit of God, you are able to do excellently well in the energy sector. And why is this important? Because there's so much that your going to school can help you. Yes, if you want to join, I think we just dropped a link on the chat box. Please, the GEPA team, can you drop the link again? You can just register to be a member. So we believe there's so much that you can do with just going to school and academic knowledge. Life is spiritual, and there is more to it than just the head knowledge and the technical things that you know. So what we do here is that in addition to building you technically, we give you the skill that you need, right? Both in terms of your soft skills as well as your spiritual skills to be able to thrive in the energy sector as a whole. Okay, so that's a summary of what we do. We have our website. We are also on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram, on Facebook as well. Please feel free to follow us and join us anytime anytime you have the opportunity. And of course, it'd be great to have you on constantly. Currently, we are doing a series called The Making of Kingdom Generals, and it'd be great to have you next week. It's usually 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., 1 hour. We're exceeding time today because it's a special session. All right, so just before we go, I want us to just take our chant and a community pledge. We usually have that at the end of the session. Okay, just a second. Let me pull this out. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see it now? Okay, I believe you can see it. So we'll take it together.
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, great. So it's our community chant at GEPA says we are excellent men and women empowered by the Spirit of God to solve energy problems in Africa with the works of our hands. We provide creative solutions, produce witty inventions, divine strategies
And strategies that
God,
bring
and
glory to
advance His
God and advance His kingdom on earth.
kingdom on earth. Thank you. So that our pledge, we pledge to take 2 hours, 40 minutes of our day in deep communion with God, prayer, and the Word. I pledge to be a person of integrity,
standing for what is right wherever I find
what
myself.
is right.
I pledge to
I
be
pledge to
bold
be
about my
bold
faith in
about my
Jesus and to be a channel for His love everywhere
and
I
to
go.
be every.
I
I
pledge to be
pledge to be
diligent
diligent
and demonstrate excellence
excellence
in everything my hands find to do.
everything my hand is trying to do.
I
I pledge
pledge
to
to
stand
stand
strong
strong
in faith,
in
In
faith
the face of
faith in the face of
adversity,
adversity.
and not give in
I
to
I
do
do not
not
give
challenges
in
give
to
in to
challenges
challenges until my victory comes.
I plan to
I
promote the
pledge to
growth
I
of
pledge
pronounce
this
to
the
energy
growth of the
promote
sector
protect
growth of
energy sector
and
and
support the
and
expansion
support the expansion
expansion of
of the
God's
works
kingdom
of
through the work
my.
of my hand.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Please feel free to share your lessons on LinkedIn. Tag us at GEPA so we can share. Let us know what you learned from the session. Let us know what stood out for you. Please feel free to join us. I mean, you can register again to be a member and ask any other person within the energy profession and within the energy sector, rather, within Africa. Please feel free to pull them in. We're here to groom people, right? So thank you so much for joining. God bless you. As always, I love you all and have a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
And you too, ma. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Femi. God bless you.
Bye,
thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Yes, the
Thank you
recording
so
will be
much.
shared on the
Thank you, Mr.
platform, so
Femi.
we will save that as well.
Please share
Thank you
the link to
too.
join. I have loved this. My first time. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we share the link then. I'm pasting the link again to join in just in case you missed it. Yeah. So it's on the chat box now. You can just click in to join in. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you, Chineke.